Welcome to the Chronic Health Collective. Your fresh start begins here. We gather powerful coaches and experts to help you reclaim your energy, heal from the inside out, step into a life that feels vibrant, aligned, and deeply fulfilling. If you're ready for better health, stronger relationships, and more purpose, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Mandy Nam.
And I'm Minna, and I haven't done this in a while.
Yes, and today, this is going to be a fun topic that we thought would be sort of relevant. So, Minna, what if the biggest thing holding you back right now is not your body, not your partner, your business, your bank account, or even your schedule? What if it is the story you keep telling yourself? So recently, Minna and I, we watched the Mandalorian and Grogu, and what stood out was it wasn't just an adventure, or the mission, or Grogu just being super cute without even trying. Although let's be honest, that little guy could sell wellness retreats just by blinking. Oh my God. But what really stood out was, of course, the hero's journey. Now, every hero has a story. Every hero faces a challenge. Every hero reaches a moment where they have to decide whether they're going to keep living on from the old version of themselves or step into something new. And that's not just in Star Wars, that's just real life.
Right, so, Star Wars is known to be like the model hero story,
Yes.
right? But some of us are telling ourselves stories about ourselves, right? About our health, how I'm getting older. That's like the
Oh my
most
God.
common one,
Yes.
right? Anything that's wrong with your body is because I'm getting older. We're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
Or the pain is normal. Everybody feels it. The knee pain. Everybody in my age is feeling it. It's just an age thing. My energy is never coming back. My body is broken, and that's just how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or the relationships. Some of us telling stories about that's just how marriage is. That's just him. They'll never change. Or that's just her. It's never going to change.
It's not always him.
I have to do everything myself. That's what I keep telling me myself too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's too late to reconnect. It's too late to fix the relationship. Or about business, finances, emotions, or purpose. I'm not good with money. No one told me how to do it. I always sabotage myself. I always doubt myself. I missed the chance. It's too late. I just missed that. That's mostly with investments.
Yes.
And the one that is most affects you the most is this is just who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, not every story you believe is yours. Some of these stories were handed to you by parents, doctors, teachers, partners, or your culture, trauma you've been through, or just past failures. And if you never question that story, that means you're still living inside it.
Exactly. For instance, for years after my accident, I believed that my body would only get worse. I was told by my doctors early on that my body, was going to turn into the age of a 70-year-old by the time I was in my 30s. And for over 25 years, I lived as if that story was true. Pain, medications, brain fog, weight gain, gut issues, mood swings. I thought that was my future because that was the story I was told. But that story was not my final chapter. It was just a chapter I had not learned how to rewrite yet. So today, we want to ask you, what story are you telling yourself right now? Because your health, your relationships, your emotions, your finances, your business, and your ability to live a chronically healthy life it may depend on whether you're willing to question that story. The hero's journey, it begins when life interrupts the old story, right? We can't keep living on that old life that story has been given to us. Talk about how the call to adventure often does not feel exciting at first, right? It may show up as fatigue, conflict, burnout. We get that all the time, right? Resentment, health symptoms, right? Financial stress, or feeling like you're stuck in that same loop, almost like Groundhog Day over and over again, right? And, there are some key points to cover here. Your symptoms, they may be signals, but they're not life sentences. Your relationship struggles, they may be patterns, but they're not your permanent truths. And of course, your financial stress may be connected to a belief story you were given earlier before, your emotional reactions. Maybe they're revealing an old wound or identity you haven't resolved yet. Your health journey may begin when you stop asking, what's wrong with me? Right? And maybe start asking, what have I been led to believe? Who gave me these beliefs? So, Minna, what is a story you used to believe about yourself that you eventually realized just wasn't working for you?
I was thinking about that, and I think as you're talking, I think my answer actually changed.
Okay.
So how you talk about your story being you believe that, after your accident, you're never going to get better?
Mm-hmm.
I believed it too.
Mm-hmm.
Because he made me believe that, because that's all, right? Of course. So here's the thing. Like, when he tells himself a story, I believe it, and that makes me my story too. I believe that he's never going to get any better, and that actually makes me take better care of you, and also take more responsibility of the relationship, because I know that his body is breaking down. I think I have to eventually take him everywhere by myself.
Correct.
So that's actually a story that is affecting your story, affects the whole family that is with you, right? It's not just about yourself.
I love that. So many people think, well, it's my health, it's my finances, it is my problem. But like you said, what you are leading in your life affects all the loved ones around you, right? So it's so true when it comes to health, it can really affect and be a burden to others. What about when it comes to women, like beauty, aging, skincare, and self-worth, Minna, what stories do you think women are carrying that might not actually belong to them?
There's a thing about women, mostly about beauty, right? As they're getting older, they feel like they're not beautiful. Well, for one thing, why do you need to be beautiful? Right? The beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Correct.
I am 56 now. I don't think I'm any more ugly than when I was 20 years old, right? I might have a little more wrinkles, my hair is a little more white, but beauty is something that you feel. It's not really something that people look at, right? It's how you think people look at you, right? So it's not really about whether you're beautiful or not. It's about how you feel about yourself.
I love that. I was actually having a conversation with one of my health coaches, and we were just joking because this is like, we're talking about what you do and giving confidence to women and trying to bring back the natural beauty. And I was joking for all the coaches we have out there that talk about health and longevity, how many of them like really lather up, with skincare and spackle cares, like what Minna talked about. And she says, Andy, I'm fully natural. There's nothing. And I said, I know that. And I'm not going to name her because we're working together, but she looks amazing. And I said, Minna's exactly the same thing. It's like, I look at her, it's so important for women to own that natural beauty, right? So how can someone begin to, recognize when a story is quietly running their life?
I think when you feel like every day is the same. It's almost like a Groundhog Day. Every day you're doing the same routines. Your feeling is the same. Every day you feel like, oh, okay, it's just another day. Once a day over, and then the next day comes along, and when that day gone over, that's when you're letting something run your life, day over day, day after day again, right? It's something else that you really need to recognize that your story has to change. Otherwise, that is going to be your rest of your, however long your life is going to be.
I love that. I think that is so true. I think that's so true.
So let's turn this around. What story did you believe after your accident, and how did that shape your health for 25 years?
Well, it's funny because like coming out of high school, I actually wanted to be a doctor, right? And of course she's laughing now, right? Because I got into school second year, I got kicked out. Well, I dropped out technically. I dropped out, but it's funny because growing up, I always thought doctors were the final authority when it comes to your health. So when your doctor tells you you're going to need a checkup, you're 21, and they're saying that by the time you're 30, you're going to be having the body of a failing 70-year-old. Well, in my mind, he's got to be right because he's had all this experience, and he's just basically saying, well, get your shit together. You got 9 years to do what you need to do before basically you're a feeble old man. And in those 10 years, I believe that story, even though I was going to other doctors and stuff like that. They said, well, you just need to eat better, exercise more, eat less, because I was gaining weight, exercise more, and all these things. It was a vicious circle. And the thing I believed in at that point is they said, well, if you have pain, take more of this. You have this, take more of this. It was always take more of this. And next thing I know, I have like 3, 4, 5 different medications, but it was always take more of this. It was never, oh, we can take away this now because you're getting better, right? So it got to the point that it was this vicious circle that, just told me, well, that's normal. That's going to happen. Oh, that's normal. That's what happens when this happens, right? And it becomes to the point that I wasn't, I was just masking pain. I think that was the biggest problem. But now that, now that I learned on my journey, pain tells you something. That's your body signaling you something's wrong. You shouldn't be masking it because when you're masking it, you have no way of trying to find the root cause to repair that damage.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with doctors, and they have really good intentions. Like when you were young, you want to be a doctor because you want to help people.
Yes.
And that's the goal. Now, the problem with traditional medical doctors, they all study the same materials. They all follow the same guidelines from the same medical boards. Unless you're in a different country or you're doing a different modality of doctor, then if you stuck with the same group of people, you get the same group of answers.
I agree. And it just came to the point that, there's a point that enough was enough. And I think, even now as a health coach, that's when I'm reaching out to people, is they're reaching out to me, is they got to a point where there's so much pain and the doctor says this is normal and they have to take that extra step, right? And that's where it sort of started with me, is like, it started with supplements when I got these crazy supplements, and all of a sudden I just started feeling better in a few weeks. And I was thinking, wow, I was taking supplements for like 20 years. What's so different? And that's where the difference is you just need to support your body for it to start healing itself. And I really believe a lot of this normal, all these thought processes, when you have all this fatigue and pain and weight gain, is because your body forgot how to repair itself. And I call that innate intelligence. And I think people really need to really stop, and just listen to their body, right?
Yeah, so with you is the vitamins, right? And you have tried other vitamins before, right? So the story that we keep telling ourselves is, I've tried this already, that doesn't work. Until someone else comes along and tell you, there's a difference. This is something you could try. And for you, and you have the open mind that, okay, maybe I should try that too, because you're 30, I'm not, you can't exactly use that I'm really old.
Yes, exactly.
So you wanted to change, right? So the first step in the hero's journey isn't about having answers. It's just realizing that your story that you've been living, it may not be true, or maybe just you don't want to accept that may be just the rest of your life, right? So once you see that story, you can begin to change it.
I love it. I think, like you said, it really starts to realizing that's just your first chapter. Like we talk about it, stories have different chapters. That's just your first chapter. And we got many, many chapters. Don't let someone rewrite your story. It's time for you to take a hold of that pen and write that story and write a different ending. We'll be right back.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with Coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Welcome back to Chronic Health Collective. So we were talking about hero's journey and how we want to write our story. And here is where most people get stuck. Right? They realize something is not working. Your body is not working. But, instead of asking for help, you try to muscle it through, right? You try to still get up every day, get everything done. You're just pushing through day after day, and your body keeps breaking down. And hey, independence is great, but isolation, is not a strength. That's a whole different problem. And every hero needs a guide. Right? Mando has Grogu. Grogu has Mando. They each are the mentors. Every great story, every Star Wars has mentors, allies, teachers, healers, friends, coaches, and people who support you, people who can see what the hero cannot see themselves. And in real life, it's no different.
That is so true. I think the biggest problem for us is, we have our ego, or one of my early mentors called it my Migo. And, even early on, asking for help, to me was a sign of weakness. That's what my dad taught me, right? And that is something that was taught to me early on from my dad. And, now looking back, that may not have been wisdom that he passed on that worked well, right? Because I think so many of us are suffering in silence and trying to do it all alone. And, sometimes, we need some help. We need some outside help. We need to search out for some coaches, or even some experts that are outside the perspective that we've been looking at, right? And it's funny because, like, even experts in certain areas may need the help from another, right? No one is ever above support, right? So even for me as a functional longevity coach, I look at root causes. I know everything about nutrition and exercise and everything. But even in the last little bit, we've been partnering with people to dive into my nutrition, diving into energy work. And as recently as last year, we reached out to one of our friends to help from traumatic recovery, right? From depression and stuff, when our little baby Patches passed away, right? So, when you really come to it, we can't do it all alone, right? And it's so important to look for a guide. Like Minna says, we watch Mandalorian. Mando had Grogu, but Grogu also had Mando, right? And, when you have a guide, they can help you see the blind spots, right? And, when you have a coach, they can help you interrupt the patterns that are so ingrained into your life daily. They can interrupt those patterns faster, and you interrupt those patterns, things can change. And, a mentor, they can really help you avoid, learning every lesson the hard way, right? Because when you're doing it yourself, everything just seems so hard. Sometimes the mentors, they can just help you ease that way through because they've done it before. They had their hero's journey. So now you don't have to do it alone, right? And when it comes to a different perspective, that can reveal different options, that you can see that wasn't available to you before, right? Which can shorten your suffering cycle. And I think that's a really big one because so many people are suffering and they're just trying to find a way out. And what if there was a way to shorten that cycle?
Sure.
Right? And, sometimes what looks like discipline is actually your stubbornness. What looks like patience is actually your avoidance of the matter. And sometimes what looks like I'm handling it is I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. But, I'm not gonna admit that, right? That was big in my family, right? And to be honest, it's still very big with me, right? not a good thing, not a good wisdom that's passed down. And in the last couple of years, we face a lot of challenges, like I said before, and we has reached out to our coaches, our mentors, and people who are better than us in those areas. And to be honest, there's no shame in that, right? The shame is not asking for help when you keep repeating the same pattern over and over again and pretending that it's just magically going to turn into a breakthrough. That's not faith, that's not discipline. And to be honest, that's just the definition of insanity, doing things, the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. So Minna, where have you had to ask for support, for or coaching, for a different perspective in the last few years?
I think I have coaches in the finance area, the budgeting, how they handle the finances, how to plan for the future, how to invest, how to look into real estate. And there's a lot of different perspectives in that, right?
Correct.
And for health, I'm mostly leaning on you, right? And the thing I think I want to reiterate is a lot of people knows that if you're into sports, you have a coach.
Yes.
Right? If you want your kid to do good in tennis or football or whatever, they need a good coach. And that's why the famous coaches are so worth it.
Yes.
Right? And that's where the difference is. If you know that you want to excel in something, you need to find a good coach. And if you may be a great tennis player, but without a good coach, you leveled out at a certain point that you'd be good, but you cannot be great. Right? And also with any kind of sports, people know that you need a coach. They know that you need to be healthy. They know that you need to exercise and recover. For some reason, they don't know that with their lives. Right? When they do good, if, with a sport or with music, you need a voice coach or piano coach or whatever. For some reason, with their life, they don't think they need a life coach. So why is it so hard to ask for help?
I love what you're saying there about, people that are in sports, people that are in certain professions that need to be at the peak or the best they are, right? The singers, the athletes and stuff like that. But what I am seeing over and over again, and to be honest, this is very frustrating for us and for other health coaches that I've been networking with, is when it comes to high achieving people that are doing really well in their business, right? They're just kicking it in their, kicking butt when it comes to finances, right? They figure it out. But I look at them, they're burned out, they got depression, they're overweight, they're tired. Why do you think these high achieving people struggle to ask for help?
I think they're forgetting that because they're good in one thing doesn't that they're not good in everything. And it has a lot to do with ego, because I'm a great financial guru. Doesn't mean I know how to take care of my health or my relationship or anything else. But because you're so successful in one thing, your ego is this high. You don't think you can ask for help, right? But the most successful people, they have a lot of coaches. You might not know about it. They have a lot of help. They have, nutrition coaches. They have, even for normal people, they're not sports people. They have nutrition coaches. They have exercise trainers. They have consultants. They have coaches, mentors. What do you call those groups? Mentoring groups. They have a lot of help, and they're not afraid to go ask for help. And that's how they push beyond what they could do by themselves.
I love that. I think a lot of people, this is something that I always tell people that they don't realize, because they think they have to work so much harder because, they're bringing home the bacon because they're doing so well in their business, right? And I'm doing this for my family. And they don't realize, well, what does the family need more of? Do you think it's actually the money they need more of?
It's everything, right? You mean it's great that you bring in the money, sure, right? Everybody loves it, and you need it. But that's not the only thing you want from a family. A family member has to be part of the family. And that has to do with connections, the support, the love, everything together. It's not just about you paying for the bills.
Exactly. And, one of the things I think, I like to remind them is they need more of you, right? You as for you being around, right? And, we talk a lot about coaching, but what does being coachable actually mean?
I think people overthink it, right? For you, it's just keeping open mind and try a new vitamin. That's how it started.
Correct.
Right? But a lot of people would not actually try that new vitamin because I have tried 5 different other ones. Right? So it's keeping open mind and forget about your past failures. Right? And really trust the coach that you choose to trust. And just, listen to what he or she has to say.
I love that.
So, you're a coach. So was it hard for you to admit when you need coaching?
It's funny, because like you said, when, back in the day for coaching, the only coaching I had was my track and field coach. And, I talked many times over, he was a badass. I did not like him initially. But, later on, he brought out the best of me. But, as for coaches, that's the only thing I thought was coaching, right? And when I started going on my journey with the supplements, my first step is like, well, why wasn't I coach on the difference of different nutrition? Right. And then, we got into this whole personal development coaching. To be honest, I didn't know what any of that was. Right. So once we started that, I just realized, oh, my God, there's so much that I didn't know and so many things that we can learn. And that's when I really realized I couldn't do it myself, that I do need a coaching in a lot of areas that I was weak in.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of lives in a box. And no matter how uncomfortable that box is, you feel comfortable in it, right? So when a coach or badass coach or mentor tells you to do something different, tells you to come outside the box,
yes,
that's uncomfortable, right? So what have other coaches or mentors helped you see that you may not have been able to see on your own?
Well, the first one was I was exercising way more than I needed to, right? Because it was more, early on I was chasing more of the physique, and a lot of people don't realize just because you look good on the outside doesn't mean you're strong on the inside. And it was really funny, that realization came to me probably several years ago when me and you went to a Pilates class. Right. Do you remember that? We went to this Pilates reformer class, and it was the first time I did it. I thought I had strong abs, my whole ego. And I'm doing the Pilates, and, on the machine, I was just doing all these stretches. And, to be honest, patting myself on the back, I did pretty good. Right. And she was actually a little surprised. Not saying I did excellent, but then she brought up a point. He says, you see those guys out there with 6 packs? I was like, yeah, they must do awesome. He says, none of them could do what you're doing right now. Right. He says, they look great on the outside, but they have no strength on the inside, right? And that's really when I started changing my mindset around, wow, living longer, being, longevity, being strong, it's more about the functional strength, the mobility, right? It wasn't about looking good in the inside, but having inner strength.
Yeah, I remember that class. It almost killed me. But since that point, right, you've also seen like YouTube videos
Yes.
of these professional sports players that could not do Pilates.
Yes.
Because they don't have those muscles trained.
Exactly.
Right. So how does asking for help connect to health and longevity?
I think, when it comes down to health and longevity, like I said from the very beginning, we all believe it comes down to our doctor, right? And the biggest problem, once again, we love doctors. This is not medical information. Got to get that disclaimer. We're not doctors. We're not giving medical information. But when it comes to doctors, so many of us think that, well, we get our checkup maybe once a year or once every 2 years. And if the doctor says everything's good, then everything's good. You're not going to make any changes, right? But, what people don't realize is They tell you that everything's good to the point that you're not immediately going to die from a chronic condition, or more importantly, you don't need certain drugs yet. But that doesn't mean you're healthy. It doesn't mean you're going to live a long time. More importantly, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a healthier health span, right? A lot of people, they think when it comes to health and longevity, it means living a long time, right? And, to be honest, my dad lived for a long time, but for the last 10, 15 years, he suffered literally in silence, being pushed around, going to the restroom, people to do his matters in in the bathroom and stuff like that, right? He lived for an extra 15 years, but that is not longevity. He had a very bad health span, but he had a long life, right? So, when it comes down to it, I want people to start realizing when it comes to living a long time, we want to have our health span. We want to be healthy all the way to the end.
Yeah, talking about chronically healthy life, as kids, we study English languages, math, physics, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things to it for you to build your foundation and your knowledge. When you're building your life, there's food, supplements, frequency, oxygen, exercising, biohacking. There's a whole system to it. So it's not just one thing, right? So being a chronically healthy life is not something you can do in isolation, because there's so many components to it. So the right guide, it doesn't just take you to that journey. It will help you remember and guide you through how to be a better you. Mm-hmm. And they help you remember who you are, where you're going, and what you're capable of becoming. Sometimes it's something that you can't even see for yourself, right? So the breakthrough starts the moment you stop saying, I should be able to figure this out myself.
I think that is where the magic happens, right? Because without a coach, you don't get to see the potential what you can become, right? For instance, I'm just going to use a metaphor here, and I'm not very good at metaphors, so if I'm doing it all wrong. For instance, you look at caterpillars. They're just ugly. I'm sorry. Like, some people say, oh, they're so cute. I'm sorry. I don't know what you see that caterpillars are cute. They're ugly as F, right? They're just ugly. But, but what happens to caterpillars after their transformation?
They could become butterflies.
They become butterflies, right? And butterflies are just beautiful, right? And what I'm coming about this metaphor, hopefully I'm doing it right, is your coaches can see what you've become, right? Most of us just think, well, my health sucks. You're reeling almost like the caterpillar. This is how life's gonna be. Like you said, I'm ugly, I'm slow, I'm weak, I'm overweight. That's the way it's going to be ever going to be. But, the coach is going to see, wow, but look at what you can become, right? And I think that's where the magic happens, is they can help you see the vision where you can become, but they also can see what's keeping you as a damn caterpillar, right? Maybe you need to eat a different leaf before you can bloom into a butterfly. I don't know, I'm just using that as a metaphor. But, as coaches, we do see the missing blind spots that you're not seeing, right? And for us, even as coaches, we have our blind spots. And like I said, that's why we are always having our own coaches and mentors also.
Mm-hmm, for sure. That's why we keep doing focus on different areas and different times of our lives, because there's always blind spots in every area of our lives, right? In our finances, your health, relationships, is everywhere. Your blind spots are everywhere.
And, to that last point, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Is your skin aging, dry, tired, and dull? Are you putting on more and more makeup to cover the fine lines and flaws? Now you don't have to. Coolness Skincare, developed by a middle-aged woman just like you. 2 years pearlescent face and eye serum cream with Schisandra berries and dragon's blood extract for your face, eye, and neck. And the vegan version, Deep Love Face Cream, featuring powerful blue tansy. This face cream is everything you are looking for. Feel your beauty. Visit coolness.com or scan the QR code for more information.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
Welcome back to Chronic Health Collective. So we've been talking about a hero's journey, right? So we talk about how you may be stuck in your story, and I hope we managed to make you feel that you are willing to ask for help. So the next step is to choose a new path, right? Because now that you're aware that your life could be better, now awareness is powerful, but awareness without action can turn into just spiritual entertainment.
Yes.
Right? So, wow, I have a pattern. Great. Now what are you going to do about it? Because if you just keep repeating the same story, we keep getting the same results.
Exactly. We brought that up earlier, right? About the definition of insanity. What's the definition of insanity?
That you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Exactly. And unfortunately, if you keep doing the same thing, guess what? You are where you are because you're unwilling to take action for a different story, right? And you cannot create a new life, rehearsing over and over and over again that old identity, that old story. And, I think when you talk about rewriting the story, it really doesn't mean that you're pretending that everything is okay, that everything is fine. It really means you need to look honestly deep in yourself, right? And empower yourself to be a little bit more supportive so you will take action, right? Because I think a lot of us are just afraid to take that action. We sort of know what's going wrong, or someone's told us, oh, well, yeah, but, right? But after the but, there's no action. And I think that's where people really is falling apart. Like, they have that old story, my body's falling apart because I'm aging, right? And the thing that really sucks is that's what doctors are telling you. I tell you, I just did a post earlier talking about that, right? Who's telling you that your body's falling apart? Well, my doctor is. It's normal, right? But what if you tell yourself a new story? Maybe your body is asking for better support. Give me some better information and some better signals, and I can help you start repairing itself, right? Or maybe you say, oh, my relationship, it's so far gone, right? But what if maybe we need new tools, new communication skills, and more importantly, willingness to grow back in love together, right? And here's a really good one. You're talking about finances earlier, right? I'm so bad with money, right? But what if your new story is I can learn a new relationship with money and build better habits, right? Or I've tried everything. This is the best one. I tried everything. Nothing works. Well, what if your news story is, well, I've tried many things, but I have not found the right strategy with the right support, and I haven't done it long enough. And I think, whoa, and I think that that's where people fail is they'll try something for 1 or 2 days and expect immediate results. And once again, that's the training that people get like they get from medication, right? That instant effect, right? So, people, they really need to stick with it, when it comes to anything, regardless if it's health or finances, stick with it. Nothing's going to change over a couple of days, right?
So I guess the key things that we're trying to say is you cannot cover from a story that you refuse to question, right? If you love that story so much that you don't want to question it, you don't want to change it, you can't change it.
I
right?
agree.
And you cannot improve a relationship by repeating that same manners, the same emotional script that you're writing, right? You cannot create financial peace while identify as someone that is always struggling. If you keep telling yourself, I'm bad with money, then you are bad with money, right? If you tell yourself, I am going to be great with money, then there's a chance, right? You cannot create longevity while believing that decline is inevitable, and your story will shape your choices, right? Your choices shape your habits, and your habits are your actions. That's how you shape your health, your relationships, your finances, your businesses, and your future.
That is so amazing. I think that story that you're telling yourself, like the very beginning, what is your journey? What is the story you're telling yourself? Because the story you told yourself all this time is where you are today. So, Minna, what is one story you think women need to rewrite around aging, beauty, and more importantly, self-worth?
I have this very unpopular opinion that women empowerment is working against women.
Oh.
And I'm going to say that because it's very unpopular. Women should be, empower each other, which is great. But when we do that, it's kind of putting you in a position that you are at disadvantage. You're immediately telling yourself that you need something to be equal to the men, which you already am. But if you tell yourself a different story, I'm just as strong as a man. I'm just as beautiful as any man, I guess. I'm just as smart as any man. Then why do you need to empower yourself, right? And that's a lot of through society, what the experience that you've been through. I worked in the automotive business with you for so long. I'm well aware of how few women survive in that industry. But if you don't see yourself as a disadvantage, that actually makes all the difference.
That is so true. Because there's, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and when it comes to empowerment, I think it should be more about being equal in everything that we do, right? And you're talking about strength. I'm sorry, men are just built differently. They're always going to be stronger, right? So, but then you're talking about intelligence or talking about stuff like that, or beauty is like, do you really need to be more beautiful just so you're more noticeable, by your husband or partner, right? It's like if your partner fell in love with you 30-40 years ago, they fell in love with you for who you are. You don't have to keep trying to look beautiful for them by putting all these beauty products on, right? I love how you frame how women should age gracefully, right? And I think that's where it is, because it's that inner beauty, and that's what brings out your self-worth, right?
Yeah, I talk about empowerment, and really, really should not be just women empowerment. It should be human empowerment.
Yes.
Right? If you have a group of friends that is supporting you, that's empowerment, and that doesn't have to be restricted by gender or age or anything else, right? So I think that's, be equal.
I love it. Well, how about this one? a lot of people, see us as the foolish couple. We're a little quirky. We, in most times, get along pretty well. How can couples begin rewriting the story of the relationship together for people that are slowly fading apart?
I would start with being honest, right? Be honest with how you manage your finances. I think that's a big one.
Yes.
Be honest with your feelings. Be honest with how you see others' families. I think that's a good one. And of course, just to share your opinions, to share your feelings, to share everything you have.
I love that. I love that. I try to do that just so you... What does it excuse me, what does it look like to choose a new story without shaming yourself with the old one? Because I think this is the biggest one. It's like in order for you to choose a new story, you need to let go of the old one. And too many people are too ashamed of themselves where they got to themselves, and they don't want to admit their old story.
Yeah, shame has a lot to do with the stories that other people tell you. Mostly parents and teachers, some of the guys, I guess, depending on your ethnicity, where you're from, your traditions. Shame is what your parents tell you. You should be shameful that you, whatever, right? That you get a C minus, okay?
Correct.
Right? Whatever, right? That's just the standards that they set for you. And shame is because you're below that kind of standard that someone set for you, right? When you realize that that's just some people's standards, you don't need to be shameful with yourself. That's when everything changes.
I love that. Because I think when you are so afraid of, change and so afraid of missing that target again, you're never going to be writing a new story, right?
So for sure. So why don't you tell the, people what story are you currently rewriting in your life?
I think a story that I'm currently rewriting in my life, and I share this a lot on my social media and stuff like that, is it's never too late to turn things around, right? For over 25 years, I suffered in silence. I was in so much pain and stuff like that. So I knew where I was, and each day now for the last 13 years, I know I'm never going to get back to that spot ever again, right? But I'm trying to improve every single health marker available. But more importantly is what I really want to do is I really want to inspire other people that they can do it too, right? I have so many friends and family right now that's having knee problems, back problems, and it's like, I'm sorry, those are nothing compared to what I had 13 years ago, where you can barely get out of bed or sit longer for 10, 15 minutes at a time. They're complaining, oh, my knee hurts or my back hurts. Yeah, it sucks. I get it. But it has nothing to do with old age, right? You got those problems because you're not taking care of your body and you're not doing everything you need to, right? And, it's sort of like with this whole Chronic Health Collective, my whole thing is, oh, great. If you're not going to listen to me, it's fine. I got this whole other panel of experts that can show you what you may be missing, right? So I think that's why it's so important, for the hero's journey. You need to find your right mentor, your right Yoda, Mando, Grogu, whatever it may be, right? For me, it's like trying to inspire people to take that first step towards their own health journey, right? And I'm just trying to be inspiration that it can be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you said you're suffering in silence.
Yeah.
Silence is sending you a really loud message that something needs to change. Right? So when you realize that your silence is sending me a really big, loud message that you are suffering, then even though you think you're not saying anything, you're sending a really loud message to the people that care about you.
Exactly. So when it comes to your health span and longevity, how do you think people are, telling themselves about that story?
You have to kind of forget everything that you were taught. That now that we're saying 50 is a new 30, 60 is a new 40, that's a better story to tell yourself, because when you're 60, you should actually feel like you're 40, right? If you keep telling yourself, a more enlightening story, then that's going to change.
Exactly. So it's sort of like, what story am I telling about my body, right? Or what story am I telling myself about aging? What story am I telling about your relationship? So these are some questions you should be asking yourself, about your money, your success, maybe about what story are you telling yourself why you're not asking for help, right? Because to be honest, I think all of us, we need help in some aspect of our life, to live a chronic healthy life. You got longevity, you got independence, you got family, you got your environment. No one is perfect in all those categories, right? And even like we said, for us, we're jumping in and out of those categories, asking for help occasionally throughout our lives.
So let's think about, is the story that you're telling yourself giving you what you want, or is it keeping you inside a cage, right? Your hero's journey, it doesn't begin when your life becomes perfect. In fact, that's actually the danger, right? And when you think your life is perfect, you become comfortable and you just stay there, where your life should keep moving along, right? It begins when you finally get honest and enough to say, this story is not serving you, right? And maybe your next chapter requires support. Maybe you need a coach, a mentor. It requires a conversation you've been avoiding. Or maybe you need new tools, new relationship tools, new health tools, emotional tools, or just a new way to seeing yourself. And there's no shame in asking for help.
It is so true. I think the real danger for most people is you're stuck in your old story, and that old story is slowly stealing your health. It's stealing your joy, it's stealing your relationship, and most importantly, your purpose, right? And your ability to live fully. So for all of you out there today, ask yourself this. Like, honestly, sit down and ask yourself this. What story am I telling myself right now? Right? Because unfortunately, your body is listening, your relationship is listening, your business, and most importantly, your future is listening. And your next chapter is waiting for an answer.
That's a great way to wrap it up. So if today's episode spoke to you, don't just watch it, you take action. Book your free consult with one of our expert coaches at chronichealthcollective.com for personalized support. Subscribe to our monthly magazine. That could be a first step for you. For powerful tips on all of our coaches to elevate your health, your mindset, your relationships. And join us live back here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. CST. You can also watch past episodes at e360tv.com or youtube.com at Chronic Health Collective.
Thanks for tuning in today. Your transformation, it starts with one bold step, and it starts now. We'll see you all next week.